Welcome to the Author Your Life podcast, where you can write a new script for your life and become the hero of your story. I'm your host, David McRae. You are the author of your life. Let's get started.
All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Hello, Story Changer, and welcome back to the Author Your Life podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be presenting a piece of training that comes from my upcoming book, Author Your Life, Become the Hero of Your Story. In the weeks leading up to the book's release, and indeed in the weeks just after the book's release, I'm going to be delivering pieces of training that come from the book. So this might be a concept, it might be a strategy, a habit, a tool, a technique that's geared around making a significant change to a key portion of your life. You can enjoy a number of these trainings throughout the weeks and months to come, all coming from my brand new book, which is available for pre-order right now on Amazon. So if you enjoy this training and you think the rest of the book will be equally as useful to you, then make sure you head over to Amazon and pre-order your copy so you get it as soon as it's released. But whilst you're waiting, I'll leave you to enjoy this piece of training that comes from the book. Hello, Story Changers, and welcome back to another episode of Author Your Life. Today I want to talk about growth mindset. Now, this is something I'm sure you've been hearing a lot about if you're in any kind of organization or institution or company. Then this is something that's probably been talked about with your team, with your colleagues. Perhaps you've even come across it yourself in your personal development journey, reading self-help, reading positive psychology. You'll likely know a lot about what growth mindset is. But I'm not here to talk to you today about what growth mindset is. You probably already know, and if you don't, you can guess very quickly from the name. Growth mindset is this idea that we as individuals can improve in any particular skill or trait or ability. It's recognizing the power that we have to learn and grow and adapt and change. That's not what I want to get into the nitty-gritty with you about today. What I really want to talk about is how do we develop the growth mindset? Because despite the fact that we're hearing it so commonly across a variety of different industries and fields, we're not really being told how to actually get this growth mindset. How do we develop it? If I walk into a school or a company or an organization and say, right, I can see you've got some posters and leaflets and booklets about growth mindset. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis to develop the growth mindset in the people who you serve, the people who you work with, and the people who work for you? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis? Show me the action plan. I think I'd be getting a lot of blank stares in response. And that's the reason why I don't want to talk about what the growth mindset is on this video, because that's all that a lot of people are actually doing, is talking about the growth mindset. How do you actually develop it? I've got 3 key concepts I want to share with you today on this episode that are going to help you to develop the growth mindset in yourself. And also, if you have people who look up to you, whether that be people at work, people in your family, people in your social circles, then you can adopt these same concepts to help them develop the growth mindset as well. So let's launch into this. Let's look at the first concept, and that is challenge. One of the key things that separates people with a growth mindset from people who don't have a growth mindset is people with a growth mindset love a challenge. They recognize that it's through challenge that they grow and develop themselves. And quite often in life, we shy away from a challenge. We take things that are easy. We take things that are safe. We take things that we know we can do. But actually, even if you just think about the achievements in your life that you're proudest of, if I was to ask you right now to write down the 5 things in life you're most proud of, I reckon most of them, if not even all of them, will involve overcoming some type of challenge. It might be running a marathon, it might be starting a business, it might be getting a degree at university, it might be beating cancer. Whatever it is, you took on something that you'd never done before. You didn't know whether you could do it, but you did it. We as humans actually have this innate drive and desire to be challenged and to find challenge. And as someone who's looking to develop a growth mindset, you really need to get behind this internal drive that we have. So one of the ways that I like to do this is to have a 30-day challenge. So set yourself a 30-day challenge in any of the key areas in your life. That might be in your health, it might be in your career, it might even be in your relationships. And what I love about a 30-day challenge is that it's long enough to see some tangible, real results, but also a short enough period so that you don't lose motivation in the process. It's got that perfect mean. It's just a long enough time to get something done and to feel good about the results. So in your health, it might be that you want to run a further distance, or you might want to run faster. In your career, it might be that you want to obtain more clients or make more sales. Even in your relationships, you can have challenges such as trying to give compliments more often, trying to spend more time with your friends and with your close friends. So you can set yourself this challenge over 30 days. And the key thing with a challenge, and the whole thing that makes it a challenge, is that it has to be difficult. But difficult does not mean impossible. If you want to run a marathon, your 30-day challenge is not from a sitting start as a couch potato to go out and run a marathon in 30 days' time. That is too big a jump to make in that period of time. Equally, if you're sitting right now as a couch potato, your 30-day challenge is not to do a 1K run in the next 30 days, because that's too easy. You've got to find something that's stretching you and pushing you. Maybe in this scenario, your 30-day challenge is to run 2 kilometers every week for 4 weeks. That might be something that is stretching you, but not causing you to snap. This is an analogy that I like to use when we're talking about challenge. And the analogy that I use is talking about my yoga practice that I have. So in yoga, the key aspect of yoga is to stretch but not snap. You want to move in a certain way where the posture is stretching you just beyond your current flexibility, but not so much that you end up breaking something. So for me, for example, my yoga practice, touching my toes is something that comes quite easily to me. That's not a challenge. But trying to get my leg behind my head is too hard. I can't do it at this moment in time. So I've got to find a happy medium where I'm finding postures which I can challenge myself in, stretch myself beyond my current flexibility, but not where I'm trying to yank my leg behind my head and do myself a serious injury. That's not what we want. This is what you want in your challenges as well. How can you stretch yourself but not snap? Concept number 2 is effort. And again, this is something just like challenge that we shy away from in our life. And effort and challenge are very closely linked together. And one of the reasons why we shy away from effort is the unfortunate downside of the huge advancements we've made in technology and as a society, whereby so many things in our life come so easily to us. If we want food, we don't have to go out and grow it or hunt it ourselves. We just click a mouse on a web page. We have so much ease and convenience in all these different areas of our life. And that leads us into the false illusion that everything in life should be that easy. Well, if I want to get a degree, or I want to get a six-pack, or I want to start a business, why can't that be as easy as clicking the mouse and ordering my groceries? Well, here's where the key distinction lies. The key distinction is that as we continue to grow and develop as a society, we're going to be able to get things easier than ever before. There's less and less effort required to get stuff in our lives, to get food, to get transport, to get shelter, to get bookcases. We can get things easier and easier than ever before. And this is a good thing because it frees up our time where instead of spending all our time just trying to survive, we're spending our time learning how to thrive. So things are always going to get easier and easier. But what doesn't change is results. We're not going to make it any easier to get results in life. You're still going to have to work just as hard to achieve and accomplish the things that are important to you. So the analogy that I use in this kind of scenario is if you think of trying to be a runner, it is now easier than ever to get your pair of Nike trainers. You can get them faster, you can get them better, you can get them more efficiently, but it still takes just the same amount of effort to get fit in those trainers. That's the distinction, and that's what I want you to think about with effort, is to recognize that just because things in your life come easily, results are still going to take the time. If you think of climbing a mountain when you're hiking, you don't get halfway up the mountain and think, this is too much effort. I'm just going to wait here and wait until they invent something that's going to get me to the top of the mountain. Or maybe I actually don't really want to climb this mountain in the first place. Or maybe I'm not good enough to climb this mountain. No, you suck it up, you have a flapjack, you drink some water, and then you keep on marching up that hill. You understand that the only way to get to the top is to put in the effort. The only way to get to the top is to put that one foot in front of the other. And eventually, of course, for any of you who hike, who've been to the top of a mountain, you know that when you get to the top, that view is stunning. That view makes all that effort worth it. So start to notice and become aware of when you start to find things difficult in life. When you start to notice that, hey, I'm having to put some effort into this. I'm struggling here. When you see that, rather than backing off, lean into that effort. Keep on going. Push through and persevere. Because it's when you're starting to get into that space of effort that you're starting to move forward. You're starting to climb that metaphorical mountain. And that's what people with the growth mindset understand, that as soon as things become effortful for them, as soon as they're struggling, have some difficulty, then they know they're actually getting somewhere. So that's concept number 2, is effort. Now concept number 3, if you weren't that keen on challenge and you didn't like effort, I'm sorry to say you are not going to like concept number 3. Concept number 3 is failure. Failure. People with a growth mindset love to fail. It's one of the key distinctions between those with the growth mindset and those without. People with a growth mindset recognize that failure is not the opposite of success. It is a key ingredient in success. People with a growth mindset know that every time they fail, they're just learning a way that doesn't work. And they're using that failure to hone their understanding, to get better at something, so that they can succeed in the long term. Now, most of us have done this when we're young. We learned how to ride a bike. Now, how many times did we need to fall off and fail until we learned how to ride that bike? It was a number of times. But with each fall, you manage to learn how to stay on a little bit longer, how to find that center of balance, how to have more confidence up there in the saddle. That analogy of riding the bike holds true in all other areas of your life. So learn to have this really fond relationship with failure. Understand that failure is just going to help you to get better in the future. Now, this isn't to say you should have some psychopathic relationship with failure where you don't care about failure and it doesn't emotionally influence you at all. Of course failure does. And I'm not going to pretend that failure doesn't hurt. And I'm also not saying that failure shouldn't hurt. Failure does sting. It is painful. But the key thing is learning how to deal with failure. And I actually have a little 3-step process that I teach to people that I've found useful to help me to approach failure in my life. So the very first thing that happens when you have a failure is you've got to learn to take the hit and process the pain. Okay, this didn't work out. It didn't succeed. Fine. Take some time to process and get past the pain. So this involves self-care rituals, involves mood boosters, so whatever this might be for you. Maybe you just need to go home and stick on that trashy sitcom. Maybe it's a case of having that nice bubble bath with the candles. Maybe it's going out and seeing some friends and having a good moan about it. Do whatever you need to do in the immediate aftermath to process that pain and move it on. Now, once you've done this, you can move on to step 2. Step 2 is to focus on the solution, not on the problem. Okay, so you've messed something up, something hasn't worked. Now there's likely something that you might have to do in order to move things forward. There's a problem that's being created. And rather than focus on the problem, focus on what's gone wrong, focus on what's been broken, start focusing on the solution. Start asking yourself questions. What do I need to do next? Who can I get in touch with to help me? What do I need to do to make this situation better? How can I fix this and improve? And even once you start to get a little bit further, you start to get into questions such as, why did this happen? But when you start focusing on that solution, you start to take away your energy and orientation towards the negative stimulus, the failure, and you start moving it towards a positive stimulus, solution. You start putting your energy and attention into actually solving the problem. Because if you put your energy and attention into the failure, into the problem, well, all that's going to do is just feeds the problem. The problem's not going to go away if you do that. But when you start deviating and diverting that into the solution instead, then you start to remove the problem. Then you start to fix the problem. So this is a really positive step to take going forward, and that's stage 2 of overcoming failure. And then the third step, which I just hinted to there, is to identify the learning. You start asking, well, why did this happen? What could I have done better? What should I be doing in the future? And this is the really key aspect of failure, and this is where people with a growth mindset do so well, is they see that every failure is an opportunity for this learning process. And they start asking themselves these questions, they start analyzing and processing what's going on, so they can start to think of how they can do better in the future. How can they grow and improve? And this is what you should do too with your failures. Because we all fail in life, we all mess up, we all have setbacks and obstacles that were sometimes our fault, sometimes partially our fault, and sometimes it wasn't even our fault at all. But regardless of where this comes in, take some personal responsibility, start looking at the failure and start saying, well, what could I have done better? How could I improve? What would stop this happening in the future? This is a key aspect of people who have a growth mindset. So there we go, we've got 3 concepts that you can start to work on and bring into your life to start to develop a growth mindset. Let's stop just talking about it. Let's stop just talking about it in our schools, in our companies, in our governments, and start actively putting this in. Because developing a growth mindset is a really key integral part of getting ahead in any domain of life. Whether you want to succeed in sports, whether you want to succeed in your career, whether you want to just succeed as a good and decent person, a growth mindset is going to help you hugely in this. I hope that what I've shared with you today is going to help you to actually develop this growth mindset that everyone is talking about nowadays. So I hope this video has helped you, and I look forward, as always, to sharing more with you in the future. But until next time, remember that you are the author of your life. You hold the pen, and you can write whatever script you want for yourself. I'll speak to you soon. David. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd appreciate it hugely if you could head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review for the podcast. With your review, please be as honest and detailed as you can be. Because with honest and detailed feedback, that helps me to adapt and grow this podcast to most serve you, the listener. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, then make sure you subscribe to the podcast. That way you aren't going to miss any of the future episodes that we've got lined up for you. Until next time, remember that you are the author of your life. You hold the pen, and you can write whatever script you want for yourself. So go out today and write yourself a beautiful story.